There are many ways to kill a vampire, but only one good way to listen to podcasts on Android devices, and that's with the Podcast Republic app. You can find it on the Google Play Store. There are thousands of good reviews, so you don't have to take my word for it. Check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store if you're listening to this show on an Android device. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Tripp, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is a man who would take you seriously if you came to him with a vampire problem, the Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Leno. And yeah, I had a book of that treated monsters as though they were real, and was like, here's how you can identify them, and here's how you can look for them.
Yeah, I feel like that's a solid play for a book. I feel like,
although I don't know where it went.
I might have to cut this out. Oh,
I remember the cover very vividly. It was like a all black kind of matte satin finish with just two yellow eyes on the cover, and it said it was called Monsters or something like that.
That seems pretty spooky. I don't remember that book at all, though.
Yeah, I think you were. I definitely had it when I was older than I should have been for a book of treated monsters factually.
Yeah,
so you might have not been around.
Yeah. But maybe it's maybe that's the maybe we write a book of how to defeat various monsters. A sort of monster squad handbook.
I'm super into that idea.
Maybe that's the idea. TM. We of course are extending the spooktacular a little bit.
Any chance to stay spooky? I'm always here.
Yeah,
for it.
Exactly. We are entering the first ever NOVAMPIRE, celebrating vampire movies all November long.
Almost
first
all
up
November long.
is...
We also have to celebrate T. Hanks.
Well...
Yeah, but we didn't. We picked the last one for Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. There's a reading of that movie that's right on brand, is all I'll say. Anyway, we watched the 1985 cult classic, Fright Night. So you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your Vincent Price knockoff. Something's going about your Vincent Price knockoff.
When the mega powers explode.
It's time. Right. Do not make sense of moves.
Get away from him! And where the hell's Corkscrew?
Halloween.
Wolfman's got narc!
Rest in peace.
So let's start right there with Vincent Price, who is obviously major
adore
piece.
him so much.
Yeah. Wonderful actor. However, I think this movie is way worse if it's not Roddy McDowall
Doing
playing
Vincent
this washed-up
Price.
actor. Yes, I think the movie is way worse if it's Vincent Price and not Roddy McDowall, because the original intention for this movie was
Vincent Price.
And the filmmaker Tom Holland, he approached Vincent Price and was like laying out the pitch for this movie. And Vincent Price, I read different sources. Some say he didn't do it because he was too typecast as a horror actor, which I think seems like nonsense. At that point, he's 30 years into it. Like, it's over, baby.
Yeah, and also at that point he's doing commercials, and I've recently, as of last year, got into vintage 70s, 80s Halloween commercials, and there are a number of them that feature Vincent Price for Kodak, for Polaroid VHS tapes that clean your VCR,
right.
But he's in a spooky mansion.
Right.
So
Right.
hey, Vinny.
Yeah. So the other thing I saw said he was not in great health at the time, which I would believe because he was older.
Yes and no, because he wasn't. He did. I think Edward Scissorhands is his last role, and that's
right. But
what, 91, 93?
Right, but he doesn't do a lot of moving in that movie.
That's true.
This is a pretty physical performance, even without. Even factoring in, obviously, there's stunt doubles and all that stuff. Like, there's a lot of ambulating in this part. You have to wave a cross around, you have to do some staking, and obviously the stunt people are going to take all the hits and stuff, but I feel like it's still a pretty physical part, and you have to be a pretty spry person to be doing that.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
But I and that's not even all of it, which is...
Well, also, I've realized this was 85. Is that the same year as The Great Mouse Detective? Or is that like 82?
It's close. It's close. They're in that same ballpark, but I don't have the answer off the top of my head.
Did Radigan in Great Mouse Detective.
Well, that's a voice.
I know.
Well, again, you can be very old and do a voice act. That just requires a stool.
I guess.
That's all I'm saying. Like, if they want to get what's her face, Angela Lansbury, to reprise Mrs. Potts, they could just like have her sit on a chair and do some voice acting. It seems very achievable.
Yeah, or Betty White. I'm surprised. Actually, now that you say that, I'm surprised there aren't more like elderly voice actors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are some. A lot of people that have done, or a lot of people who used to be famous were doing some voice stuff at the end of their lives in like the early 2000s, late 90s, like that Drek that was going right to video.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you can cut a check for whatever older actor or actress you can find.
That's fair.
Anyway, that's what the other thing too is, with regard to the point about Vincent Price, Roddy McDowall is able to do the bit a little more of making fun of a guy who was in the movies Vincent Price was in. And I don't know about him personally, but I feel like it would be hard for many people to do a character that's so thoroughly lampooning things that you were doing earlier in your career, especially if you weren't like comfortable with what those things were. And if he was upset about being typecast as this horror guy, I could see that being a sort of a touchy subject.
That's kind of fair, but I have to imagine that Vincent Price can kind of take the piss out of himself.
He certainly seems
like the dude who's like I said, like, yeah, sure, Polaroid, I'll shill your VHS tape in a spooky manner. Get me a throne.
Right. He's like drinking a Coke through a Twizzler and being like, seasonal haunted Twizzlers.
With new spooky cans of Diet Coke. Available at local Walmarts exclusively.
And you like twist the can around and there's like vampire holes fake in the can. Yeah. This is Vincent Price for Spooky Coke.
For a diet spook.
But I think Roddy McDowall is like the best part of this movie. That's what I was trying to get to in a roundabout way. I just want to put a period on the sentence and now we go wherever you want.
He's definitely a high point of this movie. It brings up you bring up an interesting point that like it makes sense for it to be Roddy McDowall versus actual Vincent Price. I'm gonna sort of yes and this because it's based on like Tom Holland, not Spider-Man, wrote this movie inspired by like late night horror hosts like that. He was like, what would a kid do if his neighbor was a vampire? He'd probably go to that person. And they brought up, Svengoolie, I think is the one, and Elvira was also mentioned.
He still hosts. Svengoolie is still out there doing it. You can see him doing it to this day.
So is Elvira.
Yeah.
How?
But I'm saying Svengoolie is doing, like, Elvira is out there, like, being Elvira because she is sort of transcended into a cultural figure. Like, she's in the most recent Scooby-Doo movie that just came out, like, a month ago.
Wait, really?
There's a spooky Halloween Scooby-Doo that just came out. I actually watched it because I had a free Redbox code.
The, like, CGI one?
Not Scoob. Oh. There is a direct-to-DVD
where she plays herself,
Scooby-Doo.
Right? Because it's Return to Zombie Island.
No, it's a new thing. It's not a return to anything. It's like it's got the word haunted.
I could have sworn that was Return to Zombie Island because I love Zombie Island.
It's very possible that Elvira has been in multiple direct-to-DVD Scooby-Doo adventures. This is called Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo.
Oh.
It just came out because I had a free Redbox code that I saw that was expiring. There's a Redbox kiosk is now less than a block from my house, and so I've been doing a lot more of that.
How could you not?
And it was like it popped up and was like, free rental expires in 42 minutes, and I was like, well, if I rent it right now, I can pick it up tomorrow, watch it during the day, and then return it before nighttime. Perfect. So that's what I did. But Elvira has sort of become like this cultural entity.
True.
Svengoolie is still doing he's hosting and this is not a knock on him. I think it's rad, but he is like doing the Svengoolie low budget Wayne's World type cable access show.
Yeah.
Introducing movies as Svengoolie.
Well, but imagine what this movie would look like if it was Elvira, or an Elvira type in the Vincent Price role.
That's a total disaster to me.
Really?
Yeah, that's an utter disaster.
No, I'm into that idea.
Because Elvira didn't, like, the point of why this works is that this guy was an actor in these films and is therefore a pseudo expert. Elvira is just a host.
I guess if
she just like watched a lot of horror movies.
But also, like,
well,
being a horror host in general would make you a quote unquote expert in the eyes of a child.
You would think so. But like Evil Ed has probably watched as many horror movies as any other person, and he's not able to be the expert.
I guess. I don't know. I think it's a fun what if machine to picture an Elvira type.
Yeah, I think sexy Fright Night is the worst version of Fright Night.
I don't think it has to be like sexy.
I mean, have you looked at a picture of Elvira? That's sort of the whole appeal of the character.
No, but like that doesn't have to be the crux of the movie. Like it's not the Elvira movie, which is a great movie. We're gonna get to it at some point. I just mean like she's that. You know what I mean? It's not her movie. She's just in this movie. Is what I would be picturing.
I see. I just feel like her décolletage would be the only thing it would be a worse movie by a worse director with a worse script, and it would be a lot more boob related. I feel the version that you're pitching, I feel, is more lowest common denominator.
Maybe, but again, Elvira's like Dolly Parton. She's in on the joke.
Agreed. I'm not okay. I'm trying to separate Elvira the character with the actress who plays her. And what I'm saying is the movie wherein the kid goes to the busty horror host for help is inherently less good because it will be made in the production system that we're talking about and be bad.
Maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway, horror hosts is another thing that I wanted to get into here because I have this, like, I don't know there's probably a word in German for it because Germans have a lot of very specific words for feelings, but I have one of the things I have nostalgia for, despite having never experienced myself really, is the horror host. Mm-hmm. Like I have a deep nostalgia for like late night monster movie horror host things. It's something I would love to do one time. So if we can never figure that out, that would be rad. But
like host a live one, like sit on a couch.
Yeah, I think that would be really an entertaining thing to do. Is like do the horror host bit and.
I mean, I'm always down for that kind of stuff.
But maybe we'll do that one year. But as a kid, I would have been way too afraid to watch the scary movies, even though they would have been like hokey and silly. And I know that now, as a kid, there's no way because presumably this content was somewhere available as on cable at some point as a kid. And now I don't really like the movies that they show. Like they're corny and cheesy and most of them are bad and I wouldn't want to spend the time watching them. So it's like I have this weird nostalgia for a thing that at no point in my existence would I actually have enjoyed, but it just seems like something I should like.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely want to host not necessarily the schlocky B, but like slightly above that.
Right. But I feel like the gimmick is that they're like trash, hammer horror, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would be more into the deep cuts, like Alligator, where it's like it's not necessarily a bad movie, but like you haven't heard of it.
Right, yeah. So that's we talk about that because this movie opens up with Peter Vincent hosting Fright Night, wearing a lot of pancake makeup.
So much. He looks like, because you've recently seen Gremlins 2, right?
Yeah.
He looks like the horror host in Gremlins 2.
Yes. Isn't it from the Munsters? Grandpa Al?
I think so. Or it's supposed to be if it's not.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I should say this. I am the most recently prepared I've ever been to do a movie on this podcast because I watched the Fright Night remake.
I was going to ask if you've seen it because I have not.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times. I think it's really, having just watched it less than a week ago, I think it is a really good movie. I might like it more than this one, and I like both of them very much. I think it's really great. And then the same night that I watched that, after my girlfriend went to sleep, I found out that there was a sequel to this movie, which I did not know about. So I watched the sequel to the 1985 one same day I watched the remake. And then the following day I watched this for the
jam-packed it in
podcast.
there.
All the Fright Nights. I watched 3 Fright Nights in probably less than 24 hours. And then I found out that there is a sequel to the remake,
Really?
but the remake sequel, but it's not a sequel. It's like the same plot again, except they gender flipped Jerry. And I was like, I don't really care about that. It's supposed to be
a
really
girl
bad.
discovering him then? Or is it...
No, Jerry is a woman named Jerry.
That's what I mean.
Geri.
Is it a girl discovering...
No.
So it's still a boy.
Just Jerry's a vampire. Yes. Okay. They just gender flipped Jerry. But I that movie, the reviews of that are like, this is literally unwatchable garbage trash. You shouldn't waste your time here. So I was like, all right, that's fine. But there allegedly is a third movie in Tom Holland's head that he's been writing as a book for several years.
Oh yeah,
and he just said on Twitter
with Charlie as a single dad, right?
I didn't see that in the plot description, but that would make sense.
I mean, I think on Wikipedia, it's either the wiki or maybe one of the trivias on IMDb. It said his idea was that it would be Charlie as a single dad, and it would be the what's teased at the end of this first movie would come back to full circle.
Well, he just announced recently that he was going to make a big announcement on Halloween 2020. So maybe the announcement was the book.
Maybe.
In which case, I will definitely read it because I like it. But I will say, we're going to talk a lot about this movie. You haven't seen the remake. I really, really like it. I think it's a really cool...
The remake or the
modern remake? The remake. It's got Anton Yelchin as Charlie, which is, no offense intended here, but a huge upgrade. Like, I think Anton Yelchin was R.I.P. that guy.
Yeah.
Like, really going to be a guy to watch for. He was like... I think he's just a tremendously talented actor, just so good, and dying because of a failed parking brake is just about the cruelest thing I can imagine for any human being.
I agree.
Just insanely stupid. Christopher Sarandon's role is Colin Farrell, so he plays the vampire.
He's always going to bring a great crazy energy.
Right, and he's very good in that. Toni Collette plays the mom.
I want more Toni Collette in everything.
Yeah. Well, they beef up the mom role a lot. Toni Collette gets a lot more to do.
I think it would be offensive to cast Toni Collette in an 80s mom role and not make it bigger. Be like, oh, you're going to have 4 lines, and then you're going to take an Uber out of the movie halfway through. She would be like, you go fuck yourself. She'd slam her hands on the table like Hereditary and be like, I am your mother.
And Evil Ed is Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who played McLovin in Superbad. So he's got a really good energy for it. And then the horror host, because that doesn't really exist anymore, is replaced by a magician. And the movie's set in Vegas. And the magician is David Tennant.
I love David Tennant.
Yeah, he rules. You should watch the remake.
It sounds. I mean,
and it was written by Marty Noxon.
Shut up.
Yeah. Highly recommend the remake. I highly recommend this one too. Spoilers. I normally say that at the end, but the remake is excellent.
I like this
one.
Very good. It's not gonna be a top 5 for me, but I like this one.
But the other cool thing I liked about the remake, and I thought was so clever, was they set it in Vegas because Vegas, one, has a really transient population. Like, people come, work there for a few months, and then leave like without telling anybody. It's like it's a transient city. And secondarily, like, a fully half of the population there works at night.
Oh, true.
It's I've been on a real big vampire kick this horror season, and I just watched 30 Days of Night, which has the cool conceit where there's no sunlight, so the vampires have a playground. But Vegas as a vampire hotspot is the most logical American city to put it in.
I'm surprised it hasn't been done other than that.
It seems like all vampire movies should be set either in New York or Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It just seems like the total answer.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, we're watching the Peter Vincent show. He's hosting some schlocky horror movie, and Charlie is making out with his girlfriend, and they stop the makeout. Yeah.
I was like, there's a bed.
So I was wondering if it was like a layer of mom defense.
Oh, like mom won't know what we're doing if she walks in and we're hiding on, and we're like on the floor.
Because it gives you like a second more of hidden before, and then you can like you're looking for a contact lens or something. You know what I mean? on the bed making out together, the door opens, you're just like, you're caught, right?
Fair.
On the floor behind the bed, the door opens. It's like, what are you two doing back there? And you can have a plausible deniability.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
That could be
Everybody knows what's what. Like, there's a blanket on the floor and a pillow. We know what you're doing over there.
Yeah. Wait, who plays the girlfriend in the new one? Or is there not a girlfriend character?
There is a girlfriend. Hold on.
You can't name drop everybody else and then leave me hanging for her.
I don't think she's that famous. Oh, I lied. It's Imogen Poots. It's actually a famous person.
Yeah, was she Midsummer? Was that her?
I don't think so.
Oh no, that was Pugh. That was Florence.
Yeah, Imogen
Pugh.
Poots is Imogen Poots was in 28 Weeks Later, way back when, and she's been in a bunch of horror stuff that I've seen. Green Room, she was also in with Anton Yelchin. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I purposely have not. I'm not.
Oh, you should watch
I
it.
know. I know it's good, but I know it's also
good.
gonna like hurt me. Like I don't know that I'm gonna be emotionally, spiritually ready for it.
Why?
It's
Because Patrick Stewart's a Nazi?
Isn't it like really intense?
It's very intense.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she's also great. I should have included her when I did the rundown. But in this movie, Charlie's making out with his girlfriend behind the bed rather, and she stops the makeout to be like, "Oh, Peter Vincent's on, Charlie. You don't want to miss him." She is the most understanding partner in the history of partnerships.
Except not, because she's not written great, because she waffles from being like, "You love Peter Vincent," to being like, "No, don't touch me," to being like, "Let's have sex," to being like, "How dare you not want to have sex?" within a 3-minute span. Like, that is her roller coaster.
So my read on this is that the first two are actually the same thing, which is, you love Peter Vincent, look, it's Peter Vincent, because she knows he's about to make the move and she's not ready.
Okay, I can see that.
So then those two things are the same, and then the fight is her like kind of lashing out, and the other one is just the sad like, okay, fine, I guess we're doing this, which is a bummer.
Okay, I can see that reading.
And so the neighbors are carrying in coffins, just straight up coffins.
It's really,
basically.
but they're really pretty looking coffins.
They are.
They're ornate.
If one were to be choosing decorative coffins for home decor, these would be the coffins one would pick.
Yeah, they're like super scalloped and like really ornate and curvy. They're really gorgeous, and they're coffins, not caskets.
Right. Caskets being the like roughly nailed together vampire looking things from the old West.
Caskets are the squares, or the plain rectangles. Coffins are the ones that are vaguely human shaped. Got it.
Okay. But Charlie, I think for the first third of this movie, really sucks, and so he's distracted.
He doesn't speak ever, so there's no like every time someone's mad at him because he's distracted thinking about the fact that his neighbor's a vampire, he never once says, "My neighbor's a vampire." He never tries to get someone else onto his side for the first third of this movie.
Yeah, although I do feel like there's a pretty easy cover of people will just think I'm a lunatic.
Well, he goes to the police, so he's fine going to the police with vampire, but not like his girlfriend or his mom.
He doesn't go to the police with vampire. He goes to the police with "my neighbor killed a guy," and then when the police when it starts to turn and he's going to be kind of out of luck, he then goes like, "Okay, it's a vampire. I should have told you in the beginning it's a vampire." And that point, the cop's like, "Get out of here, you idiot child."
I guess. I don't know. It just seems weird that like his mom gets mad at him, his girlfriend gets mad at him, and he's not like, or at least like, I think my neighbor's doing something. Like, give me some Disturbia, some Rear Window, like something.
I agree. It does need a little more Rear Window in it. And even the remake makes this same thing happen where he kind of gets withdrawn and people are like, "What's wrong with you? You've been so weird." And he's like, "Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. Go away. I don't like you anymore." And it's like, well, wait, what? Can't you just tell someone?
Get some help.
So they have a quick chat with mom, and I love that the two of them are standing at the front door, and she's like, "First you want to make love, and then you don't want to make love, and I'm leaving, Charlie." And then the mom's like, "What are you two kids up to back there?"
Yeah, it's like, Mom clearly heard that.
Why are you having this conversation here? Go out the front door. You kids doing it now or something? You need a rubber?
This is one of my 7 lines in this movie, so I gotta make them count.
But the part that I find really incredulous about this opening is that they're in a suburb and nobody finds it incredulous and weird that someone is moving at nighttime. Like,
Yeah.
into the house with all the furniture.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a plot point of like, you don't think that's weird, Mom?
Yeah, they moved in the middle of the night. And that's not to say there aren't legitimate reasons for people to move at night. It happens for many reasons, some good, some bad. But I feel that it is rarely a full-on moving truck, people moving in large, heavy furniture under the cover of darkness.
Yeah,
It just
that's
seems
not how
like
that works.
that's usually someone is fleeing for safety and has a few things and gets into an apartment or what have you.
Well, the movie also implies that he's a flipper. He's a house flipper.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's definitely ahead of his time. In the remake, he is
A property brother.
No, he works in construction, but not specifically on his house. But what I do want to point out here, because this is the first time you see Charlie's house and the cool vampire house Chris Sarandon lives in next door. This is this Disney backlot.
It is.
from the California location, and just before they filmed this, they filmed Something Wicked This Way Comes,
Which I haven't seen in so
on the
long.
set.
That's probably on the Plus, right?
Something Wicked?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I just watched it recently and I had to go track it down because it's basically not available anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
They put Mr. Boogedy and Mr. Boogedy, the Bride of Boogedy, but they were like, nah, brah.
The worst part is Boogedy is 46 minutes. So that's like a good, like, I'm going to throw this on and not really pay attention to it. Bride of Boogedy is a full feature.
Ew. Why?
I don't know. I believe also that was the Burbs also filmed on the same backlot? I think it might have been.
I do not know.
No, that was Universal. I just read a really cool article. If you like this movie at all, I highly recommend. There's a LA Magazine article from, I want to say August, that's all about this movie on its 35th anniversary and how they used Los Angeles to double for sort of Anywhere USA. Because at one point we see on Peter Vincent's eviction notice that he's in Iowa, although it's never really spelled out beyond that. But they talked about they were driving all over LA and trying to find a Victorian house next to a more modern house. And then finally someone was like, I think that's on the Disney backlot because there's like a bunch of different styles of houses for shooting. And they were like, no. And then they went and they're like, oh, this is the dream.
Now I'm just picturing it's like the camera pans over one house more and it's the Golden Girls house.
Basically would be that. Yeah.
Well, I like that they've rather successfully used LA to sub in for Anytown USA, because Nightmare on Elm Street tried to do the same thing, and there's a couple shots that are like, there's palm trees. Like, this is clearly LA. This is not...
Right.
Springwood is Scream. Haddonfield is Halloween. Elm Street is in... Is it Spring? No.
I have no idea.
Is it Springwood? I thought this... Hang on, I'm going to have to Google.
Isn't it just like Springfield or something?
Oh, I was right. It is Springwood. I thought Springwood was Scream, but it is not. It is Friday. It is Nightmare on Elm Street. So yeah, it's supposed to be...
Oh, by the way, this speaking of Boogedy and Bride of Boogedy, Jerry's house is the house in both of those films.
Shut up.
Also, a fact I learned from that great LA Magazine article. I'm going to name the writer because I'm going to borrow liberally from this. They did a lot of the research for me. So Jared Cohen, thank you for doing that.
Tweet.
I love this other detail. Yeah, I will do that. The other detail I love is that Jerry is always eating fruit, which is unusual for a vampire movie. And Chris Sarandon
decided
did some research.
Fruit bat.
Mostly fruit bat, which I thought was great. Just a really fun detail. They do the apple thing in the remake. He's always eating the apples.
I like that, because also I always find that like apples are a good like bad guy. It's a common bad guy food.
Yeah, it's a good bad guy food. The only thing I quibbled with is there should be at one point a time where the apple clearly has fang marks in it.
Do you mean like it's shriveled, like he sucked the juice out of it?
No. Like when he takes a bite, it just had like the edges of the bite have like obvious long fangs.
I like that.
Because like when I bite an apple, you can kind of see the imprint of my teeth in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can kind of see my canine teeth, but he has fangs, so it should have a lot more like fangy.
Well, he's also got they also gonna have a shark mouth going for some of the vampires.
Yeah, that's true. The vampire's design in this movie is very wolf-like, but we'll get it. We're getting all over the place. I'm gonna try to get back here. Okay, so here's where we meet Evil Ed, which is Charlie mostly calls him Evil, which is easily a top 5 weirdest nickname I've ever heard or seen anywhere.
In any other movie like this, they're best friends, and they're not in this movie.
They seemed so in the remake. They're explicitly former best friends, and they seem like former best friends here as well. Although it's never explicitly stated.
Yeah, I kind of want that explicitly done. Fun fact: this actor, Evil Ed, ended up doing gay porn in the '90s for a little bit.
Oh wow, that's sounds like perhaps not entirely by choice. Well, so I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, no, I think he just was like, I think offers just kind of stopped coming, and he was like, well, it was like I look great, so let's see what happens. And then I think in the 2000s, late 2010s, he got a few more roles.
His hairdo in this movie is from the same barber that a cartoon character goes to when they've stuck their finger in a light socket.
Very much so.
It's just straight up spikes. And he does this maniacal cackle that is very unsettling. Yeah, just, this sort of hyena-like kind of Crypt Keeper almost.
Yeah, it's almost RuPaul, which is the Crypt Keeper. But
wait, sorry, what?
RuPaul's laugh.
RuPaul voiced the Crypt Keeper?
No, RuPaul's laugh, sounds like the Crypt Keeper.
Oh, I was like, no, that's not right. Sorry, that is not true. I don't know who told you that, but that is not true.
Was the Crypt Keeper.
It's like, that timeline doesn't even make sense. No, that can't be right.
Well, apparently also when Ed got the script, he assumed he would be reading for Charlie, and then he showed up and they're like, all right, so you're going to read for Evil Ed? And he was like, excuse me? And I'm like, watching this movie, I'm like, oh, buddy, no, you're stealing.
Yeah. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree, but also oofa doof.
Yeah, oh, honeybee, you are not a Charlie. The Charlie they got is barely a Charlie. You are a great best friend character.
I also kept thinking, this is like a reference probably only for you, but isn't one of the songs in the Evil Dead musical, isn't one of the zombies Evil Eddie?
Well, the character is Eddie, her boyfriend,
but then he's
Annie's
Evil
boyfriend.
Eddie.
Then he does a song called Bit Part Demon where he says, it's me, Evil Eddie.
Oh, okay. Evil Eddie, I feel like I remember being sung in the soundtrack to that.
It's me,
every time.
Evil Eddie.
Exactly. Every time that it got said, I was like, I had that stuck in my head for 10 seconds or so.
I'll see your quote unquote deep cut and raise you one that Jerry, what's his last name? The vampire?
Dandridge.
Jerry Dandridge is married to the actress who originated the role of the baker's wife in Into the Woods.
Oh, interesting.
And also was Jack Skellington.
Chris Sarandon has he's also Humperdinck from Princess Bride, which we should say.
And the police detective from Child's Play.
He has a brief cameo in the remake.
Oh, fun. Is he in the audience at the magic show?
No, it's better than that.
Okay.
But I don't want.
That's fine.
You should watch it. I don't want to give it away. You should watch it. It's weird to recommend you watch it like a week after you have just watched this original one, but it is a very good movie and it's worth your time. Anyway, there's a pretty lady next door who may or may not be a proster's. It seems like maybe
it's later confirmed she is.
Okay.
On the news report.
Okay, I missed that detail. So Charlie watches her go in the house, and then later hears a scream and doesn't call the cops then, but calls them like a day later, basically.
Well, he calls them for the second lady.
Oh, right. Okay.
And also, I got to give this movie props that he goes inside and he's like, Mom, have you seen the new neighbor? And she's like, no, I haven't, but he's got a carpenter who lives with him. With my luck, he's probably a gay man. And there was no slur. It wasn't derogatory or mean or a joke.
Yeah.
It was just, I'm a hard luck mom. And I was like, good for you, movie.
It is the established opinion of this podcast that all immortal beings are bisexual.
Yeah. Also, Chris Sarandon in this movie 100% plays for both teams.
Oh, this movie explicitly, there's bisexual overtones because at least, I don't know everybody's orientation, but Jerry certainly seems bisexual. His compatriot is at least batting for one team because he and Jerry, it seems like, are having all sorts of things
it seems
happening
like they're
next
playing
door.
hide the stake.
Yeah, hide the stake, exactly. There's actually a bit of this in one of the things I read doing research for this, that there's the scene where he's like dressing his hand wound later, and the director was like, okay, kneel down while you do this part. And the guy was like, what? And he's like, just kneel down while you do this part. And he's like, all right. And then later he saw the movie and he was like, oh, you son of a bitch.
Well, later there's a scene, they're on the stairs. Chris Sarandon comes up behind him and like seductively like slides his arm around him and like leans on. I'm like, those are acting choices I make in things.
Right. Again, all immortal beings are bisexual. I will not hear arguments to the contrary.
If you're gonna live that long, you're not gonna limit yourself.
Right. And frankly, bisexual might not be a wide enough range. It might be just sexual, period.
Yeah,
that they're,
pansexual,
what are you? But pansexual, not even. It's a bigger field than that. They'll do anything. Robot, sure. Really good looking tree, why not?
Fish monster from a lagoon.
As long as it can give consent, yes.
As long as it understands.
It needs to be able to understand and give consent. I do really like this sequence at the diner because it feels like it's a 50s diner for some reason or another.
Yeah, but, maybe it's one of those like throwback diners. Were they around?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not even necessarily throwback. It could just be old, you know?
Okay, so it's not purposely themed like a nifty 50s.
Yes. Right.
Is it a chain?
It's not
Is it a chain or is it just something near us?
I don't know, because I always like Cheeseburger is the same vibe, and that is at least a multiple state chain where it's like, you know, chrome and Formica and milkshakes in the little sleeve thing.
The red glitter seats.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if Nifty 50s was local or nationwide, but Johnny Rockets is the same deal.
Yeah.
And that's a chain. But yeah, that's perhaps the Downingtown only reference. But yeah, I feel like this might just be an old diner that happens to have like been maintained, that it's not a themed attraction. It's just actually from the 50s. But they're talking about what's happening in the town, and Evil Ed's like, they had their heads chopped off, which I would be immediately calling the police. Like, I think this might be the murderer.
Well, so yeah, the girlfriend comes in and starts to talk to him at the diner and like apologize, and they're having a conversation. And then the TV comes on and is like, a woman was murdered last night. Details at 11. And he understandably gets distracted and like wanders over to the TV, and she gets so angry at him that she takes a burger out of someone's hand and smashes it into his face. And I was like, can we get some consistency on the girlfriend?
Yes.
Just a dime's worth of consistency, please.
It's horrifically underwritten.
Yeah.
Evil Ed, by the way, Tony nominated.
That's right.
For the human comedy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love the burger smash in the face. It almost looks like
it turns into Sloppy
Joe.
It's clearly a burger when she picks it up, and then it becomes a Sloppy Joe.
Yeah. Or I forget which state in the Midwest does this, but it's called a loose meat sandwich, and it's like a Sloppy Joe without sauce.
Is not the way.
It's not a good name.
Don't call it that.
It's just not a good name.
Loose meat sounds like a weird like stripper name.
I always think it sounds like a horrific discount bin at a third-rate grocer.
The loose meat bin.
If you give me $3.50, I'll let you put on a scuba suit and dive into the loose meat bin. Anything you can pull out's yours to keep.
You get like a shoulder-length rubber glove, and you just have to scoop out what you want and put it on the scale.
Anything from the loose meat bin rings up at $1.99.
I was picturing also like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, loose meat, and then it's like
Loose Meat is a cover band of Meatloaf that has a very specific thing, and I don't know what the specific thing is.
I think Loose Meat would be like they would do it all in the style of like yacht rock. They would do Meatloaf covers as like yacht rock.
I was thinking like, is it maybe classical music versions
like
of
a
Meatloaf
postmodern
songs?
Jukebox kind of thing?
Yeah, like you have like orchestral versions of Bat Out of Hell, maybe. Which honestly, I would go see.
I mean, I will 100% will I have time for that. Or maybe Loose Meat is the name of the strip club. Not the stripper.
That sounds a little misogynistic. I feel that that's too much.
You're assuming it's a ladies' strip club.
Okay, well then it's whatever the equivalent is against men. It's like it's too yucky. It's too yucky.
Loose Meat 100% would be the dong swinging strip club.
I feel like Meatloaf cover band is. I will keep pondering what the perfect instrumentation it is, but it's a Meatloaf cover band of some sort.
Moral of the story: don't change the name from a loose meat sandwich. That's just that's not.
I believe it's specific to a place called Made Right, like MAID-RITE is the restaurant that originated the loose meat sandwich. So it is technically a Made Right loose meat sandwich.
That's not much better. A Made Right loose meat? No.
Yes, it's what it is. It's a Made Right loose meat sandwich. I'm not saying anything about it. I've never had one. It might be delicious.
I'm sure it's delicious,
but it is definitely just loose hamburger.
Inspire.
I also, it just seems like
it's Double Drink Tuesday, loose meat.
Like,
it's Drink Ticket Tuesday, the loose meat.
Please welcome opening tonight's show, Loose Meats, Iowa's #1 meatloaf cover band. Maybe it's a bunch of surfers doing Meatloaf covers, like Hang Loose. Right?
Oh,
they're
so
like
it's
real
like
pothead stoner
is it like
surfers,
like 60s beach style? Like it sounds like how the Beach Boys would do
surf rock Meatloaf. I love it. That's what it is.
All their shirts.
It's just
say,
like
Hang
there's a
Loose
very
meat.
specific. Yeah, exactly. The shirt is a Meatloaf surfing on a surfboard,
like a slice of meatloaf.
and then it's a guy on the beach yelling "Hang loose," like a whole meatloaf.
Okay.
And then a guy on the beach is yelling "Hang loose, meat." Anyway, we should get somewhat back on topic. He's spying on the next door neighbor.
He's peeping. He's window peeping, and I'm not about that.
He's just a peeping Tom, yeah. And the neighbor shows up and gets taken upstairs by Chris Sarandon, and then Chris Sarandon sees that he's watching and sort of performs for him a little bit.
Well, so there's also the other weird thing that he's looking through binoculars at the window, and he sees that Chris Sarandon has claws, and he puts the binoculars down and like leans in, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, the binoculars help you see close up.
Right.
Keep those up."
There's also quite an assortment of snacks on the floor, which implies that he's been doing this for, 3 or 4 hours, which seems insane to me that he's on a proper stakeout.
Yeah, I feel like I needed more like Mountain Dew cans or like a pot of
Jolt's
coffee.
Cola.
Jolt. Yeah, was that a thing then?
I feel like Jolt is older than you think.
That's probably. I just assumed it was like a late 90s thing.
I know that it was around for the caffeine wars of the late 90s.
Oh, I remember there was a time when we weren't allowed to drink Mountain Dew because there was too much caffeine in it.
I don't think I ever got that restriction. That might have been for the ADD boy.
Which ironic because I should have been drinking more caffeine to balance my stupid brain. Plot twist.
we used to get Mountain Dew and no, it wasn't even Mountain Dew, it was Surge.
Oh, that's right. There was Surge.
It was Surge and Jolt Cola, and then we would play GoldenEye until 4 a.m. and eat just all of the candy.
Yeah, and Cheetos probably.
It's a proper miracle I don't have diabetes from all these late night
or a heart
drinking,
condition.
Candy eating. Yeah, either or. And the thing is, now I don't even really like caffeine. Like, it's a rare occurrence when I'm seeking out that.
Oh, I still like caffeine, and I have a bad sweet tooth.
That I have. Anyway, there's a really great shot where Chris Sarandon sort of like slowly draws the curtain over the window that I think is really, really wonderful.
Yeah. And I also think this movie would have not felt yucky if the characters had all been established as 18 instead of establishing that they're 17.
Oh, yeah, no, totally agree. The part later where he seduces
I hate it.
Is really uncomfortable.
Because they're 17 and I was like, why can't the movie just in the beginning be like, I just turned 18 in the beginning of senior year or like whatever.
Or make it more implied as to what's happening there, because if he's just biting her as a vampire, it's less yucky to me.
Oh, he is not doing just that.
Well, I know that. That's what I think is happening, but I'm saying they could explain that.
He also puts his hand up her hoo-ha on the dance floor, so...
Yeah, it's quite uncomfortable. But there's a shot of Charlie, like, snapping awake after this happens, and he is really acting for the cheap seats.
Oh, he doesn't snap awake. He runs to his mom. To wake her up.
That's right. That's who. Sorry, I just have wake up written in my notes. Charlie wakes up his mom, and she's got like an eye mask on, and she's doing a real like, what's happening here? And it's like a lot of arms swinging, a lot.
Well,
and I get it.
They costumed her to look like a cartoon character sleeping.
No, she looks like the big bad wolf.
No,
like when the big bad wolf is pretending to be the grandma, and Little Red Riding Hood is like, "What big teeth you have?" That's what she's dressed as. It's like a pink bonnet.
My mind went to like a Miss Piggy. Like, this is how I imagine Miss Piggy sleeps, like in a full satin nightgown with the mask and the thing,
with a house coat over it. Like, she's got this whole thing on. And I get it. This woman does not get much to do in this movie. So, hey, if you're going to be on camera, you better make the most of it, or else you're not going to get, in the movie. But she is
Can you imagine being this woman, and then they remake the movie and cast friggin' Toni Collette and give her a real role, and you're like, what the hell? I have an MFA, motherfucker.
There's a whole plot in the remake about the Colin Farrell character you think is going to try to seduce Toni Collette, which makes sense. Like,
they're the adults.
He's trying to get at the kid. Yeah. Well, in this movie, they have Chris Sarandon get in the house or whatever, but they establish the single mom thing and then don't do anything with it. Like, he could definitely do like a kiss on the hand that would make this lady's heart go aflutter. And then Charlie later is like, "Mom, he's a vampire." And she's like, "Come on, he kissed my hand. He didn't bite it."
Yes, exactly.
But I just love her. She sits up. It's like almost like Don't Wake Daddy, that game from when we were kids. It's like she snaps away. What's happening here?
Her sleeping cap flies across the room.
Yes, it does. It's exactly what happens. And then we got a cool bat transition with Sarandon, which I like that a lot. I thought it looked neat.
Also, somehow he has killed this woman, put her in a plastic bag, and gotten her into the car in maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, he's a quick drainer, this vampire.
Apparently.
And I also think it's weird that his sort of Renfield character doesn't do all that much to help him with this kind of work, which I feel like would be Renfield work.
The body into the car.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. But I feel like in a normal vampire movie, Renfield would be also the one who drives the car away and leaves. Isn't Chris Sarandon the one that drives the car? Yeah.
I don't remember who explicitly drives the car, but I agree that maybe they're equal because they're lovers.
Yeah, that's true. So the mom's yelling, and we see him eating the apple, and he like throws the apple in the yard where Charlie is hiding, and then Charlie goes running in the house, and so Chris Sarandon knows he's being watched. Of course, the mom doesn't believe, and there's a really nice edit where the mom is like, "What?" and it hard cuts right to the girlfriend also going, "What?" as if he's like,
that was clever, a clever way to jump without having the like trope of, cutting to the end of the conversation. Like, it felt like a better use of that.
Right, and it also saves us from having to watch 2 instances of him explaining that my neighbor's a vampire. It's like, oh, they're both having the same reaction. Great, this is perfect.
Yeah. Also, this is another thing that happens a lot in movies, and I feel like if me personally, I wouldn't do it this way, but he calls the police to say, like, my neighbor murdered someone, and he is with the police when they go to investigate.
Yeah, if this is his choice, he is the dumbest human being on the face of the planet.
Absolutely.
Like, keep any of your cards close to the vest.
But he like goes with the cop so he can like poke around the house.
Yeah, Art Evans is the cop, and we've seen him on the show previously in Tough Turf. He's also in Die Hard 2 and CB4, the Chris Rock movie. But he's like, examining, looking around, not seeing anything, of course. And then Charlie is like, "Go look in the basement. That's where he keeps his coffin." And the guy immediately is like, "Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?" Which is, I think, the appropriate reaction. And I really enjoyed.
Charlie's an idiot.
Yeah, he's just like blundering straight into the vampire's lair, blowing. Like, you already know that the vampire knows that he's there because he saw him. But now it's like, not only do you know my secret, you're trying to get me killed.
Uh-huh.
So he runs away to Evil Ed's,
where they establish that they're not friends.
Right. And he pays him for his assistance, and Ed's doing a lot of cackling. And I just, like, from a standpoint of you're making this movie, you got to watch like 50 takes of these cackles over the course of a shoot. It's just, why is this what you're writing? He's the worst.
Well, also, again, Evil Ed thought he was a Charlie type. Just think about that with every cackle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
But this part I think rules. This is, I think, the best sequence of the movie because we spend 5 minutes where Ed is like, here are the rules. And then the movie follows the rules. And there's no new magic power. There's no new thing we don't know about. There's not like making it up as you go along. It's like, I am going to tell you the rules and then we will follow them.
And it does this universe uses the invitation rule, which is like one of my favorites in the world of vampires.
Yeah, I think that is honestly the best part of vampire lore where you're playing with stuff like that. And mild spoilers for Bronx versus Vampires, which I recommend you all check out on Netflix. It's really fun, very Monster Squad vibes. But there's a thing they set up in that movie and then they don't pay off where a person buys an apartment building, a vampire buys an apartment building. And I'm like, oh man, that's such a brilliant idea. So now that, because they even say like, well, now I can get in his house anytime I want. And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. Yeah. And they don't pay it off. And I was really disappointed that they don't pay that off. But I thought that was a genius idea. So I love the invitation rule. I think I'm with you. I think it's one of the more interesting parts of what makes vampires more interesting than any other monster.
Because it's also like a great practical line of defense for humans.
Right. And also it opens up so many possibilities for how are they going to trick their way into the house, whether it's, seducing the mom or finding some loophole or...
Because isn't it an episode of Buffy where I want to say Dawn says like if there's a vampire at the door and Dawn's like, why don't you come in here and say that to my face? And they're like, yes. You idiot.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. They play with that a little more. Sorry to talk about the remake so much, but they play with that a little more. He has a delivery person's uniform.
So
and
that's great.
Hey, I got this for you, and it's like, yeah, okay, come in here. So I love that rule. I think it's interesting.
I wish this movie played with it better because they're like give you the rule, and then literally 3 seconds later, Chris Sarandon has been invited in the house by the mom. Yeah,
it would be much more fun if the kid was playing with that of. Mom, you can't let this guy in. Like, oh, he's fine. He's very charming.
What I wish this scene would have been Charlie's walking home from Evil Ed's. Mom and Chris Sarandon are on the front porch. So
yes,
this whole scene happens on the front porch, but there's no mention of being invited inside. And then later that night, he finds out that your mom invited me in like before you got here. So he thinks he's safe the whole time. Like. At the door taunting him like, you can't get me, blah, 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 blah. And then, boom. I think that would have been a better use of this.
Or even better, he like whips out a tape recorder and it's the mom being like, why don't you come in for a drink? And him being like, oh no, I can't right now.
I like that too. That's great. Also, great use of like a talk man or talk boy.
Yes, a talk boy, yes. But the real thing I have a problem with here is that the mom doesn't know that he is a weird vampire from the fact that when she offers him a drink at 8 or 9 p.m. or whatever this is, he says, sure, how about a Bloody Mary?
Maybe she's drinking one too. Maybe she offered a Bloody Mary.
You can't be drinking 8 Bloody Marys after 8 p.m. I'm sorry. That is past the time, way past the Bloody Mary hour.
I love a Bloody Mary.
The Bloody Mary window ends at 2:45.
2:45?
Yes, after 2:45, you are past the Bloody Mary times.
I don't know.
A Bloody Mary is from 9 a.m. until 2:45 a.m. unless you're in an airport, in which case you can drink anything you want. There are no rules on an airport or in airplanes.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that rule. I love a Bloody Mary. I would drink.
You drink Bloody Marys at night?
I would.
You have, or who you would?
I don't know that I have. I mean,
but you haven't because it's a weird thing to do.
I mean, I will say I might have in the early days of this quarantine. Which like feels like again like the airplane rule. Like there's
yes, exactly.
It's an Outback Steakhouse in here. No rules, just right.
Yeah.
Did we Google that to see if that's really their slogan? Because I feel like that's a reference we say a lot on this show.
It was a ad campaign of theirs in the 90s for
Okay.
a significant amount of time. Yeah, no, I would bet a digit on that, like a finger. I would happily wager a finger that that's an actual Outback slogan. I do love Chris Sarandon here does play around a bit with the invitation business. Like, I know that you know that I know in a way without being as on the nose as that. I do like that.
He's also he's got a real Mark Ruffalo look and vibe to him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. He's definitely sort of a Ruffalo-esque
Kind of
figure.
boyish, but still very mature and handsome looking.
Yeah, yeah. So Charlie gets awakened by the such a clatter that happens on his roof.
Well, he also there's also this scratching that he hears, and it is identical to I don't know if you ever noticed this, but Mom and Dad hang wreaths on the front windows of our house because we were white. And I was home alone once, after rehearsal or something, and I just kept hearing this scratching squeak, and I didn't know what it was, and it sounds like it's unnerving because it sounds like this, like someone's trying to get in, and it's just the wire the little floral wire that holds the wreath in place just had the tail, and it was scraping against the window, and that's as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's what the sound is.
That's awesome. There's a really creepy bit of business where Charlie's like searching the house for him, and he's just standing above the mom's bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets his way into Charlie's room, and he like picks him up by the throat, and Charlie's like, thrashing around for his life, and he kicks out. For some reason, Charlie has a pachinko machine.
Yeah, it's the thing where you pull the plunger and the marble flies up and does the plinko.
Yeah, it's pachinko. It's a huge game in Japan.
Oh, I didn't realize. He throws him into the closet door after being like, quiet, we wouldn't want to wake your mother, which like, brah. And then there's some really excellent tension with the window.
Yeah, he's like trying to get to it, and then Sarandon opens it and is just pushes him until he's dangling out the window. And he basically gives him the classic bad guy deal of, you forget about me, I'll forget about you, we'll both go on our way. And Charlie's like seemingly going along with it, and I'm like, my dude, this is not real. This agreement has never been real. There's no power in it for him.
Well, but I mean, like, I feel like if I'm in Charlie's position and I'm being dangled out the window, what does he have to gain by telling me? Like, he already has me in a position to kill me.
Right, but I feel like what would happen normally for real in this conversation is you'd be like, all right, I won't tell anybody, and then he lets him go out the window, and he's like, I know, you're dead now.
But why bother with the I mean, what is he? He is a queer man, so he does love the theatrics and the drama.
And also, as we said, he is omnisexual because he's just like trying out different things. Maybe he wants to have someone beg for their life. Maybe that does it for him at this stage. He's not got a lot of things that he hasn't done yet. Yeah.
Although, you know what's crazy? The three actors in this movie are 25, 25, and 28. The three teenagers. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. What, that they're all that old?
Yeah, they don't look that old.
No, these are very young-looking people. It's one of the few times where I'm like, you definitely cast people who are way too old, but I can't tell.
Mm-hmm. Evil Ed especially has a very young...
He looks like a child.
He's 25.
I know. Yeah, he looks super young. This is resolved by Charlie grabbing a pencil and staking him through the hand, and it's awesome looking. It's so cool.
I will say there's some weirdness because... So he's got his hand on Charlie's throat, choking him out the window. Charlie stabs him with the pencil and he kind of recoils. And then we see the palm side of his hand and there's, 8 inches of pencil sticking out. So how did that happen?
I thought he stabbed him in the other hand.
No.
He stabs him in the hand holding it?
I think it's the hand holding it. Maybe I'm misreading, but I thought it was that hand.
Yeah, I thought he stabbed him in the hand that was holding the windowsill.
It could be, but either way. And some great
he does a really
effects.
Yeah, he pulls the pencil out of his hand. It's really gnarly looking.
And then this is the scene you were talking about where he was on his knees. Renfield's on his knees bandaging his hand.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I think that's not the only thing you're going to do there, huh?
Uh-huh. And he calls Charlie and he's like, hey, I'm going to kill you, just so you know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Charlie, you dumbass. You can't, like, you need to have your attack plan and execute. Like, you can't let the vampire know you know.
Right. You have to have like come up with all of your schemes and all your backup schemes and your side schemes for this.
You need to Home Alone trap your house, like Nancy.
Right. And the scene with the hand stuff is also where we see the very
hand bandaging stuff. Let's be clear that there's no hand stuff.
We did not see the hand stuff. I presume that there was hand stuff.
I assume there was some hand stuff and some other stuff going on.
But the werewolf designs the vampire designs are extremely werewolfy.
Yeah, they have a more primal look to them. Like they have sort of a sharky mouth, almost like, because isn't that the same vampire design from 30 Days of Night?
The 30 Days of Night vampires are shark toothy, yeah.
And Supernatural, I think, also has like a sharky vampire.
They do, yeah. I can't remember if that's all the Supernatural vampires or just some.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped watching that show, but they've done vampires a couple times.
So he has really bad dreams, and then he gets woken up by a phone call, and there's a cool like crash zoom in on the Charlie realizing that it's
Chris Sarandon,
Jerry on the phone.
Yeah, doing hand stuff with Renfield.
Right. So we decide, we got to get help. We got to go to Peter Vincent, and this is the first, like, sort of in the movie appearance of Roddy McDowall.
Yeah, I really love that they filmed so many B-movie scenes. Because a lot of them feature Roddy McDowall in them.
Right. I think almost all of them, I would wager that all of them are filmed for this movie, but I'll cover my bases and say almost all of them are
I don't think
the
last one, the octopus person, I think that one was just old footage, but yeah. And this was the thing that I thought this was a weird choice for a 17-year-old to be like, I'm going to go to the movies, like the horror, like it seemed weird that the 17-year-old would think that.
Yeah.
Like I needed someone else to like throw that idea. Like Evil Ed, I thought should have been like, what are you going to do? Go to Peter Vincent?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Have him be like,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
But to come up with it on his own feels sort of monster, like, hey, army guys.
Yes. Yeah. From Monster Squad. Yeah. In the remake, he is explicitly calling himself a vampire hunter. So it's like, okay, well, I'll go to the vampire hunter.
Okay. Yeah.
So
there's an hour left in this movie, by the way.
Yeah. I don't think it's poorly paced, but it puts the sort of act breaks in odd parts.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
I like this movie, as with all movies ever. Basically, you could trim 5 minutes or so from it without losing too much.
I think you could trim about 10 at least off of this one.
But I don't find that it's like tedious. I don't think that it drags. It's just that weird that like this feels like end of Act 2 and it's not.
I think that to me is why it sort of drags. That like my brain is used to like, okay, at this point in the movie there should be about this much movie left. And I like checked because I was like, what is it, like 30 minutes left, maybe 40? And I was like, oh no, there's a full hour left. Right.
It's really almost a 4-act movie.
It is.
But this part here is Charlie goes to the television studio where we find out Peter Vincent's just been fired. And Roddy McDowall really liked this character. He was like really excited to do the sequel and he wanted to do a third one. It just never came together. But he came up with the idea that the background for his character is that he kind of like toured the country doing this horror host thing. So like it wasn't syndicated. He would go for a while and then get fired and go to the next city.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And so he's got this big box of all of his props and bits
plant,
and bobs.
You know, when you get fired, you get the box with your plant in it.
You box of the plant, yeah. And the long nameplate is always sticking out.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's the loaf of bread style nameplate.
Uh-huh.
But I love this bit here where Roddy McDowall quickly figures out like, oh, I have an easy mark here and I'm going to soak him because the kid is like going on and on about, you know, he's like, oh, do you want an autograph? And he realizes this kid wants to pay him money. And so suddenly he's a lot more interested. I just love that stuff. I think I have a soft spot for it because I think the D&D character that I play when I play D&D is like very Roddy McDowall-esque, like washed up has-been who has still like it's 100% confidence and 4% talent.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's sort of the sweet spot. And I love characters like this. He's almost reminds me of more contemporary, the professor in Harry Potter.
Dumbledore? Oh,
No,
Lockhart.
no. He's the yes, Gilderoy Lockhart.
Except
yeah.
Harry Potter's canceled.
All right. Well, I still think it's a useful reference tool for people.
We should specify also that JK Rowling is
Harry
a trash
Potter isn't canceled. JK Rowling is a trash monster.
but she still touched like you can't. I don't.
I already own the books. It's
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna just like the money that was spent on me as a child in Harry Potter merch probably bought her a summer home, but like I'm not gonna throw it away and like just like burn it. But she is a garbage monster, and the whole thing's been tainted now.
yeah. But again, like
Sorry, that's
once you
too
put
woke.
stuff, once you put stuff out into the world, you don't own it anymore. So it's
Yeah, but there's also I also think I do.
All I'm saying is I think I can reference Gilderoy Lockhart. It doesn't put money in her pocket.
And I'm
That's all I mean.
I was like, let's also follow it up by saying that J.K. Rowling is canceled. That she's a garbage monster.
Yeah, she sucks. Trans rights are human rights. Go fuck yourself. I'm there. I'm on the team.
Yeah. You too, fucking Hagrid and what's his nuts from the Crimes of Skimbleshanks.
I don't want to talk about this for too long, but what really, really pisses me off is when the guy who played Robbie Coltrane, the actor who played it talks about like, oh, these kids wouldn't win a war. You didn't fight in World War II. You are not that old. You cannot do that.
What is he, 50? Like,
No, he's old. He's like 70, but still, like World War II was ended in 1942. It was 70 years ago, or 1945, excuse me. But like, come on, like you weren't involved in that.
No,
you
were
can't
not.
claim it. Our grandfather is 90 and he wasn't involved in it. And he was like, he was
alive then.
He was too young. He's 90. That has nothing to do with this movie. I cannot stand when people like take claim to something like that and have absolutely no concrete reason for doing so. It's like you cannot make that claim. You have no connection to that.
well, I mean, Eddie Redmayne also played a trans woman and then is now like, well, J.K. Rowling. I'm like, fuck you. You don't get to do both. Go sit and spin.
Anyway,
Sorry.
that's not what we're here to talk about. It's
too
fine.
woke.
Yeah, don't be too woke. We'll get another nasty review. There is a delightfully designed 80s scooter right after this bit.
Yeah, I wanted a little more out of that scooter.
It's on screen for like 30 seconds, and I was like, oh man, this dope scooter better figure into the end of this movie. And then it's never on screen again. We had a scooter take an Uber out of the movie, which is unconscionable.
Yeah, someone I think mom saw the scooter on her lawn, was like, well, I got to get this out of the rain. And she picked it up, put it in the trunk of the Uber, and then got in, and they both left.
She slapped the trunk twice. All right, off you go. See you later. I'll take you to the storage bin.
The Uber I took with the broken trunk, and I hit my boyfriend in the face with it.
Yes. I think you may have told that story on the podcast.
Probably. If not, tweet at us, and I'll tell it next time.
Meanwhile, Charlie is upstairs doing some candlelit craft work.
Yeah, all of a sudden his room is full. It's like it's a store you'd find in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yes, it's all garlic and crosses, and he's furiously whittling steaks.
Yeah, it's a weird Italian grandmother kitchen.
Just garlic strung about.
Garlic and crosses.
That would be funny,
right?
Like, oh man, what if no one has ever done a vampire movie where like a bunch of Nonas are the vampire slayers? But that would be so logical.
Nona.
Yeah.
Is Nono? Is the male? Is there a?
I guess.
No, and Papa.
But
Nona and Papa vampire slayers.
I specifically want it to be Nonas. It's just a bunch of Italian grandmothers, and like
the vampires back of their wooden spoons.
No, they pull the cross. Oh, the wooden spoon's good too. But I want them like pulling a cross off the wall and like pulling a protective sleeve off, and it's actually a huge spear or spike. Or
no, I'm
stake,
picturing she slaps the vampire's hand with the wooden spoon, and when he like, she flips it around and it's sharp, and she gets him in the chest.
Yeah, that would rule. I would totally watch grandmas versus vampires.
They feed a vampire some gravy, and he starts choking, and they're like, "That's the garlic." Then he's like, his throat's opening up.
Yeah, the hot. There's just spaghetti pouring out of his throat. Yeah, you have a spicy meatball. I love this. That's our somebody in Hollywood give us a call.
Give us money, please.
Known as V Vampires. That's the sequel to Bronx versus Vampires.
Next
It's Little
Hulu-
Italy.
I was going to say next Halloween. Look for Nona.
Yes.
Nona v Vampire.
I love that idea. It's like the Van Helsing line. Van Helsing got all the credit, but the real hero
his
was
Nona.
Yeah, it's passed down from Van Helsing to Van Helsing through the Nonas, not through.
I taught him everything he knows. Do I get the credit? Do I get a phone call?
Not even on my birthday. He forget about me. Oh, and then the big reveal is that like the lead Nona, who's been passing down all the secrets, actually is a vampire, but she like is like a vegetarian. She's like a vegetarian vampire, so she's like undead and can't really be killed, but they like mix cow's blood into her spaghetti instead of red sauce, so she can stay alive and like pass down the secrets.
Oh, I would see alternative. I was thinking it's the papa. The very first was her husband. That's why
that's cool.
That's why she learned how to kill vampires because of my husband. She crosses herself. She crosses herself and then does the chef kiss.
My Peter, he was a vampire.
My Vincenzo.
Oh, that's genius. I love this.
We'll workshop this offline. Next episode, expect a full treatment.
At some point, you're gonna get a radio play that's the known as Vampires, and it's just you and me doing all the parts and doing that horrendous Italian accent. Yes, that horrendous accent as the women who are the Nonas.
The Nonas. The League of Extraordinary Nonas.
It's the Monster Squad, but octogenarians.
Yes. It combines the Golden Girls, my love, and horror movies, my other love. I'm into this.
I think that's something.
Yeah.
I really do think that's something. It's never been done before. That is for certain. There has not been an old people
Someone
movie
called
that is
Betty
also
White.
a scary movie. Put her in a bubble so we can use her in
Betty
2
White,
years when
Cloris
this is ready to film.
Leachman. Who else we got?
We're going to have to go to the deep well of old lady actresses.
She's not Italian, but Jennifer Lewis. I also want her in this movie.
Maybe Elizabeth Shue is in there too. Maybe we just shoehorn all of our things that we like into this.
She's the wife of current Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm. You got to learn the secrets.
I already know your gravy recipe, Nona. Slaps the hand. No, none of that secret.
The real secrets.
She
and she pulls out
hang
the
on.
rest.
She grabs the side of the fridge and pulls it, and the whole fridge opens up, and it's just a secret door to like a back room.
I was thinking that she takes down this like book that looks like it's recipes, and she opens it, and inside it's just like explicit instructions for how to kill a vampire, but they're on like handwritten little
Like
different
index
sizes
cards,
of paper.
And she still leaves things
like
out. That's the cold open. Is someone like tries to kill a vampire with a Nona recipe, and they're like, you forgot to give me this ingredient. And she's like, I'm gonna give all my secrets.
You have to sprinkle the steak with the holy water. Well, that's not in the recipe.
But that's what I do. You don't watch Nona.
Is it my secret?
You don't watch Nona.
You call me on my birthday, baby. You'll get the secret. Oh, mamma mia. Anyway.
All right, this movie.
Yeah, right. We have a movie we're talking about here, I think.
We do. It's called The League of Extraordinary Nonas.
The League of Extraordinary Nonas. Somebody out there Photoshop that, would you please? That's truly delightful. Amy, the girlfriend, she talks him down from like making steaks and going to kill the neighbor, and it's like, we'll get Peter Vincent on the case.
And he's like, I tried. And she's like, no, we'll actually go get him. And so they go and they say they'll pay him. And this is what you alluded to earlier. As soon as they mention money, he's like, oh?
Yeah.
And she goes, I have a $50 savings bond. And I was like, remember savings bonds?
500.
Is it 500?
Yeah.
Remember savings bonds?
Yeah, when that seemed like a useful thing to do with your money. That's like $1,200 in today's money, BT dubs. I did the quick check.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they mature.
No. $500 in 85 is $1,200 now, so not a bad payday.
Oh. And that's, but again, that still has time to mature, that savings bond. So that could be like $1,500.
I think they were capped.
Were they?
Yeah. There was a limit on how much it would earn over its value.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like in today's money, it would be like $1,500 by the time it matured.
I'm saying $500 is worth $1,200.
Yes, and I'm saying by the time that 500 matured, like the saving, right?
So
that's the thing. Those are the things that mature, right?
Yeah, so you yes, but I think you are. So you would buy a $500 savings bond for less than $500. I thought. No,
I don't think so. I think you pay that, and then it makes more money.
Okay, I thought it was the other way, but I'd really, you can put the tweets away. It is not relevant to either of our lives. We'll just move on and not know who's right. But he decides like, oh, we're gonna do a vampire test. So he calls up Jerry.
Yeah, they call him and warn him.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys.
Well, they think their friend is having a psychotic episode, which, to be fair, is not a crazy reaction to your friend covering his windows with garlic and crosses and making a lot of steaks.
Unless he's trying to be a Nona.
Yes, but he's not. He's Charlie. So,
but I think to me, the second I call a guy, I'm like, hey, our friend thinks you're a vampire. Can we do a test to show him you're not? And the second he's like, no, you can't touch me with a cross. And are you bringing real holy water? My brain goes, oh, no, you're a vampire. Never mind.
Yeah, and Peter Vincent should know this because he's an actor who's been in many vampire movies. But I do think that I could see where someone could be like, oh, yeah, I'm a born-again Christian. I'm okay with this, but we can't be disrespectful, so you can't do the crosses or whatever.
I guess, but like, how hard is holy water to get?
I mean, technically, both you and I could make it.
Yes, but there was no website in the 80s you could go to get ordained.
The Universal Life Church you could do by mail back in the day.
Oh.
That's how it started. The Beatles were all ordained.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I know. I don't know how hard it... I mean, presumably any Catholic church you could have walked into and stolen holy water from.
That's in Monster Squad, isn't it? Or no?
Yeah, it's in a lot of these movies.
It's the Lost Boys, where they kick open the church during the christening and fill up their super soakers.
Yeah. It's in a lot of these types of movies. But I do think, this is my one quibble about Roddy McDowall, and this is probably a budget issue. He should have a more ridiculous car.
You think he should drive the Dragula, the Elvira mobile?
Yes. Yeah, he should have a stupid-looking car that he got as a prop on the set of one of the movies. Because all the stuff he owns is props from the movies. Like, oh, this is the thing from this movie he's constantly saying. Yeah. I want him to have a goofy car. I
agree with that. It should have been like the Munster mobile.
Yeah, exactly. So Jerry kind of flirts with Amy, which is super creepy because she's a 17-year-old girl and he's an undead vampire who's probably like 150 plus years old. And he drinks the holy water.
I think if it's literally just him glamoring her into biting her, fine. It's weird, but you're just like glamoring her so you can bite her and kill her. But it is a full-on seduction, so no thank you.
I do think it's interesting that they have it set up that he has this painting of this old flame and she looks just like Amy. And I like that idea.
The movie says she looks just like Amy. I didn't think that painting looked a lot like What's-Her-Face.
Oh, I totally did when I saw it. Like when they reveal it, I'm like, oh, that's the girlfriend.
I mean, yeah, I figured it was supposed to be, but like I didn't think they looked the same. Like
you're saying it's like the painting of you as Mr. Mushnick from when you were in high school?
No, that looks a lot like me in high school. Okay. You hold a picture of me in high school next to that thing, and it's got the chubby. It's my stupid Lego haircut, my chubby cheeks. It's me.
But he does the holy water test, and Charlie sniffs it right out. He's like, "That's obviously not really holy water." And I was like, "Thank you." But what I wanted this to be is like, okay, try and drink this holy water, and he has some that he has.
Charlie
procured.
has. I like that.
And then it's like, I'm not going to do that. Well, why won't you do that? And then it's like, get out of my house. Like, I would love if it was like just a little, like turn the temp up just a skosh on this bit.
Give it a simmer, give it a shake. I also like that his girlfriend is, she's like a little dressed up for the vampire test. Like, it looks like she's wearing a blazer and a skirt.
Yeah, it's like, she looks like a newscaster.
She does. We now come at you live.
Here from Jerry Dandridge's house where we're trying to see if he's a vampire.
And then, so the water test, whatever, and then Charlie goes, all right, then touch this cross. And they're like, Charlie, he passed the water test. And I'm like, he's not asking him to walk on hot coals. He's saying,
right.
touch this piece of metal. Like,
right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. They quickly are like, oh, you fool. And then this leads to Roddy McDowall using his little cigarette case with a mirror and then seeing Jerry has no reflection, which interestingly enough is a bit that they do exactly the same in the sequel. They have
Really?
Roddy McDowall do the exact same bit. Yes.
in the remake or the sequel?
The sequel, the one with Roddy McDowall. Yeah, he like goes in the sequel has, and we'll maybe do that one day, but the sequel has a Ghostbusters 2 problem where it's like, oh, that thing that you think is real isn't real anymore, which we
Is
both
it
hate.
just Roddy McDowall who returns, or does Charlie come back too?
Charlie's too, yeah. And he has the exact same cigarette case, and the people that Charlie is convinced are vampires, Roddy McDowall is like, they're not vampires, and then he does the same exact cigarette case thing and is like, oh shit.
I always love when movies do the no reflection thing well.
Yeah, this one's really good. And I also love that, like, he gets startled and drops it and a piece breaks. And that is the part where Chris Sarandon figures out, oh, he knows. I thought that we had played this off, but it didn't work. So we think Ed gets bit in an alley and then it's a ha 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 fake out. And then he really gets bit, which is just kind of a waste of everybody's time.
Real gay.
It is very gay.
I was like, oh, you're biting him in the alley? Wink, wink, wink. Did you just come from the manhole? Wink, wink.
Is that where Loose Meat is performing? So they run away.
The all-male burlesque show at the manhole.
So they run away, Charlie and Amy, and they run into the club here. They're like hiding in the club.
This club, by the way, looks just like a dance, like a dance discotheque, but it's got a full kitchen somehow with a chef and a chef outfit, like the hat and everything.
This is one of the things where I'm like, all right, this isn't a small town thing. Like, there aren't dance clubs in small towns.
No, there are not.
There might be a bar, but there's not a dance club.
Yeah, I think this was, to me, I kind of got the like the John Hughes Chicago vibe.
Yeah.
Like, they're close enough to the city to get there.
So so they hide out from Jerry in the club and are trying to get away from him. And then we cut to Ed has gone to attack Peter Vincent, and he's like he comes running and bangs on the door like, I need help, let me in, and then turns into a vampire. And he wears these glitter contact lenses that look really cool, but apparently the actors
do have glitter in them.
Yes, and apparently the actors were absolutely completely blind when they were wearing them.
Well, yeah, glitter is opaque. Glitter's opaque.
Right. Well, these contact lenses were the same as just like having your eyes closed.
They looked amazing, though.
Oh, I thought they looked really cool. But apparently the actor who plays Ed here went really, really hard on Roddy McDowall and like bruised him up a bit.
Oh,
and
really?
so Roddy McDowall was really mad about it.
I believe that.
Because the director was like, hey, don't hold back. Go for it here. And he's like, okay. And apparently Roddy McDowall did not get the same message.
Well, there's also, they worked really hard on this bit that like you don't notice, but Roddy McDowall kind of backs up around this couch and this chair, and Evil Ed comes after him, and there's a mirror behind him, and Evil Ed doesn't have a reflection in the mirror, but you can see everything else in the room. And I was like, that's just such a nice little touch that really sells this whole thing.
Kind of Invisible Man vibes.
Yeah. And there's a really great crossburn effect.
Yeah, I love the scar that it leaves on his head. It's really gnarly looking.
Which will make zero sense in about 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, they do explain it, and we'll get there, but they do explain it.
No, because he's the one holding the cross.
We'll get there.
Okay.
I think it explains it, because I had the same beef, and then I rewound the line, and I think it's okay. We're back at the club. Jerry's there too. He's dancing with Amy and grabs her by the private parts. There's no way to say it. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Don't like it. And Charlie is like frantically calling Peter Vincent, trying to tell him to warn him. And the thing I really like here is she gets mesmerized and her hair starts to change, and they change her hair kind of progressively as she
I
gets
didn't notice her
more
hair start to
vampiric.
change here.
Yeah, it
Because
changes,
later her
it changes
hair is like
style.
a full different length, a full different
Yes.
color. And I was like, how, what?
So it's like a short hair, like curly hairdo,
Like a
close to her hair,
Curly
close to her head,
pixie,
rather.
kind of like if Ali Sheedy in The Breakfast Club had a bit shorter of a haircut.
But as she starts to get mesmerized, the hair starts moving up, like it's more of an updo while she's dancing, and then it becomes the full long hair later.
Yeah, long red hair from short black hair.
And the bouncer kind of gets involved here in this thing, and the one of the two bouncers is Biker from Friday the 13th Part 3,
Oh.
and he gets vampire murdered just like right through the gut, thrown around the dance floor.
So there's this. I don't understand when movies do stuff like this, because Charlie comes up to the two of them and pulls Amy away, and then the bouncers get involved and they separate them. And so as Amy and Charlie are running to the door in the crowd, because everyone sees the vampire attack, they get separated, and Chris Sarandon grabs Amy. And I was like, well, why did we bother with the drama of him getting her if 3 seconds later she's going to get kidnapped again?
Right. Because it's much more interesting if she chooses to go with him because she's mesmerized,
Or
and not
if
the
he
other thing.
glamours the bouncers. Like if
Sure, yeah,
or
also
Charlie
fine.
brings the bouncers over and is like, "Hey, this guy's dancing with a teenager," and then he can glamour the bouncers or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We're using glamours from True Blood. I don't know if that's a phrase everybody
Is it
knows.
really?
Yeah, I first heard it in True Blood, where they.
I don't think that's limited to True Blood.
Well, so the idea that a vampire can mesmerize a person is called
Right.
They specifically call it glamoring in True Blood, and I don't know that other media uses the word glamour. And I just realized that it's been 90 minutes of me saying a word that people might not get in context.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you're right that specific term, but I was going to say the mesmerize thing.
Mesmerize
is
a thing, but it's in True Blood. It's called a glamour, and so I've used that word a lot in this podcast, and I realized I should probably explain that.
So they drive away, having kidnapped Amy, and Ed cackles a whole bunch.
Uh-huh.
That glamour is listed as a term on the Buffy wiki as well.
But that could be a spell, the glamour spell, like from a witch,
Interesting.
to change her form.
I'm not going to spend time looking.
That's
this up
fine.
now, but
It
I'm
doesn't.
curious.
It does not matter. I've cleared up any issues we might have had, but
Yeah, glamour might be True Blood. Anyway, there is a chart that I am going to spend a lot of time reading later on Wikipedia about vampire powers.
Send
and
it
where
to
the source
me.
of them. There is like a breakdown where it's like it's a chart of like the setting where it's from, and then the various powers like immortal, enhanced strength, enhanced senses, enhanced speed, and then like which thing. So I will be spending some time reading that later. Maybe for the next episode.
you're gonna have
I
to
can,
send that one to me.
Already done.
Thank you.
So he talks Peter into helping, and at this point, Amy sees the painting, or he tells her.
Yeah, she wakes up in this gorgeous, like, ethereal dress, because I feel like they always put Dracula's brides in, like, flowing Grecian, sheer, ethereal gowns.
Right, and we'll just choose not to talk about the fact that he stripped a 17-year-old girl naked. And put
Yeah,
different clothes
just
on her.
make your characters 18 movie.
Right, it's just so much, like, it's still bad that he did that, but it's a different kind.
Yeah. He full on seduces her. She takes her top off and he bites her in the neck. And I was like, oh. I know she's 28 in real life, but her character is 17.
Yeah. Do you think I'm going to search out people who look like a former partner who wronged me is just like the most common thing among immortal beings? It's gotta be, right?
Or their descendants.
Oh, yeah.
It's either
Descendants
descendants-
don't always look like the person, though.
Well, no, but I think it's either descendants, like you pay for the crimes of the father or whatever the hell that is from the Bible, or you look like my love and you're just unlucky.
Yeah. So this is all going on outside the house. Charlie's about to run in, and Peter Vincent luckily shows up with his whole vampire killing kit.
And they clearly sneak into what is a trap.
Yes, they're basically there's a spring-loaded thing and a piece of cheese, and Charlie's like, "Ooh, cheese!"
Yeah, because Charlie's an idiot.
So Jerry comes to the top of the stairs and he does the titular "Welcome to Fright Night," just like Peter Vincent does every week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is the point where it like finally crystallized for me. This is where I wrote the note. I felt this way the whole movie, but Chris Sarandon, really perfect casting. He's such a treat.
So good.
He's sort of debonair and smooth, and like you believe that he could trick people into,
He attractive as hell.
Yeah. I think he's really great.
I wonder if he and Susan still talk. Like if they're
Are they related?
She was his first wife. That's why she's Susan Sarandon.
Is that really? I didn't know that.
Which like
I assumed there was a relation.
That like your stage name is your ex-husband's name.
Yeah. So they were married before she started acting?
I don't know, or maybe the start of her career. I didn't look too hard into it, but yeah, she is his first wife.
So this is where they do the cross thing that you find upsetting, where Peter Vincent takes the cross out and he kind of laughs at it. But what he says is, you have to really believe, because I've dealt with, like, at my age, you have to really believe.
Oh, so specifically because I was like, it says you have to believe, but if he burns someone else, then then he clearly believes.
So like he believed enough to get the fresh vampire, but like this is a loose meat vampire. He's been around a while.
Yes.
He's deep in that bin.
He's the gray meat at the bottom of the loose meat barrel.
Exactly. So he needs some real tenderizing. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool wrinkle, the idea that like some of the vampire, like Chris Sarandon could probably eat garlic at this point, I thought was interesting.
Yeah. That also would have been a clever twist on the, if he had done something like that, he'd be like, hey, how about you just give me a head of garlic and I'll take a bite like an apple or something.
Yeah. Well, we got to remember that for the Nona movie. I give him a whole head of garlic and he just chomps it away.
I threw my garlic right at him.
What do you mean? You're immune to the garlic. So Charlie gets knocked out. Peter runs, and you think he's just running at first, and I was like, "Oh my god, is he just leaving this kid to die?" But no, he's running to Charlie's house. That's my kind of movie.
Abandon the child and save yourself. That's my movie.
See ya.
Hey,
I forgot I left the oven on. Pardon me.
Hey, Chris Sarandon, I'll leave you to your boyfriend. I'll get the hell out of town.
But he runs to Charlie's house, and Ed is there. So it's like your two simultaneous fight scenes happening in adjacent houses: Peter Vincent versus Ed, and Charlie versus Jerry.
And Ed pulls a Sarah Jessica Parker in Hocus Pocus. He's hiding under mom's covers
with a literal Raggedy Ann wig on.
Yeah, which didn't make sense.
Why does he have a yarn wig?
I don't know.
Is that in like Jerry's closet? Does he have just like odd disguises?
Or maybe it's like an old Halloween costume of mom's.
Oh, maybe.
She's Ubered out of the movie long ago, so we can't ask her. Oh, yeah.
Ed is like, she left a note and said dinner's in the oven, and she like, never
But why does that note have to... Like, I don't... That to me is another moment of like, that's not really world building in a way that feels, relevant and necessary. It's like...
It's world building in the way of we only paid her for 3 days and this is the 4th.
But Evil Ed says she's working nights. And I was like, great, cool. That's why she's not here. And he goes, but she left a note. And then the next 5 minutes of the movie are him like slowly pulling the note out of his jacket, unfolding it, and then reading it and laughing about it. And I was like, no, I got it 5 minutes ago when you said she's working nights. I got it. I'm here.
But you missed the joke then.
What's the joke?
The vampire says that she left dinner, meaning Peter Vincent.
She said she left dinner in the oven. His dinner is in the oven.
I did say in the oven, but I thought it said that she left dinner.
His dinner's in the oven is the line.
Okay.
So Peter, I almost said Peter Falk. Wow.
I would be so into that.
It's a much cooler movie with Peter Falk.
Excuse me, Mr. Dracula. Just one more thing. Could you drink this holy water? I'd be so here for it.
One more thing.
It's a terrible Peter Falk. You don't need to point it out to me.
Oh my God. I just realized the Peter Falk made me think which I think might be an extension of the Nona, but I'm here for Angela Lansbury as the horror hostess.
Angela Lansbury could be one of the Nonas. We'll have to draft her in.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not all Italian.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
like-
I want Jennifer Lewis in this movie, too, and she's not Italian, I don't think.
I don't know who that is.
She is the grandmother in Blackish, and she...
Oh, okay.
I can't think of... She's done a lot of other stuff. She's a huge personality. She's hilarious.
Okay, I know who
I was
that
say
is.
you would know her to look at her, but I can't think of other stuff she's been in on the top of my head.
Anyway, I got distracted by Nonas again. Peter Vincent gets knocked through a table and breaks a table leg, and then picks that up and uses it to stake Ed, who like slowly
turned into a wolf.
Yes,
And
but then he turns
it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous looking wolf.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. But he like keeps working his way backward into Ed.
So it's no he he they're on the second story and the wolf comes down the hallway. Peter Vincent stakes him and throws him like over the balcony. And then there's an overhead shot of the wolf on the ground, and it's clearly a dude in a wolf costume.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is great. This is so good. Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know,
Yes.
if you're
Yes.
Patreon, you'll have heard this. But when we did the Great Muppet Caper, there's this creepy shot of a human in a Miss Piggy costume. It's an overhead
Yes,
shot
yes.
of a clear human in a Miss Piggy costume walking down the street. And it's like right in the uncanny valley. It triggers your brain's fight or flight response. That's what this wolf looks like, because it's like clearly a dude in a little costume.
But they also made the weird choice of the wolf has its arms and legs extended, so it's like imagine doing like a dive, you know,
Yeah, or like a
high dive.
sploot, like a corgi sploot.
Yeah, but the wolf is then trying to move, so it looks like a sausage, just like
It's so
wriggling and
weird.
wiggling. It's really bizarre.
And there's a great transformation of him turning back into Evil Ed, where like his hand melts into flesh, and it looks great. But then he dies for far too long. It looks great, but it's too long. And then,
I was also surprised we didn't get the like "thank you" as he dies moment.
It seems like that's coming, and then it just ends with a naked dude on the ground.
Yep. And Peter Vincent's like, "Well,
I'll need
gotta
this
go help
steak
over
back."
there." Yeah. So meanwhile, Charlie is locked in a room with Amy, the vampire, and the whole house just looks dope as hell at this. Like we're like running through the house.
I love this house. It's up there. It's up there with the house from Clue and the house from Casper, and now the houses from Hill House and Bly Manor of like great film houses.
Yeah. And Peter Vincent makes his way in and is like, if we kill the vampire by dawn, Amy will be saved. I don't quite get the lore
he
logic.
goes- and Charlie goes, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "I don't know."
He
What other
says
plan
all
is
the
there?
other things. He said all the other things from movies have worked so far, so this one probably will too, which is great.
Yeah, at that point I'm like, "Hey, what's your idea, Charlie? What's your plan to save your girlfriend?" I'm all ears.
Regardless of whether or not you can save her, you should definitely try to kill the vampire.
Yeah. And this is where Charlie and Peter Vincent are on the staircase, and Chris Sarandon's at the top, and they turn around and his boyfriend is at the bottom coming up the stairs, and Peter Vincent shoots him in the head, and it's a great tumble.
Yeah. He earlier had set up a literal Chekhov's gun of like, I'm going to shoot the familiar because we know he's a daywalker.
Yeah. And then you find out that he's not a human, but he's not a vampire. He's just some kind of undead creature because he melts into a pile of goo and sand, and it looks excellent.
It does look very cool. It's much like the final scene at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark with the Nazis.
Yeah, mixed with a little bit of Gremlins, I would say.
Yeah. But I do wish they explained what the hell this thing was.
Yeah, I'm like, is he a golem? Is he a zombie?
I think Gollum is probably right based on what we see, but you're right. It's just a mystery.
An ex-boyfriend of his? I don't know.
So Jerry summons Amy and is like, he's standing on the roof and really sort of vampire wolfed out and is calling to her for help.
Wakes her up.
And then he dives through the big round stained glass at the top of his staircase, which looks really cool.
And this is where I thought the movie should have ended, pretty much. Like, there's another 10 to 15 minutes of movie that I think are pretty superfluous. Because we get a real hocus pocus setup here where he crashes through the window and we can see the sky is starting to pink behind him and get lighter. And Peter Vincent is like holding the cross, and they have the moment of like, I told you, you can't, that only works if you have true faith. And then he like kind of does like a thrust and he's like, oh, like realizes there is true faith. And the sun comes up and it hits him. And I was like, oh, great. Hit him with the sun. He dies. Movie over. Great.
Yeah.
But then they decided it has to go on another 10 minutes. And I was like, we don't need all that.
Yeah, it is a bit of a false ending. I do like that he turns into a bat again and then he's fighting Peter Vincent as a bat.
Yeah, but like I'm fine with that. And then throw him out the window and he falls in the lawn in the sun and then...
Right. Apparently, Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowall rather, broke the puppet when they were filming this the first time, and they had to stop and fix the puppet and wait multiple days for the glue to reset.
I love that. So they have to chase him to the basement, get open his coffin. It's a whole... It doesn't need to be drawn out like this.
Right. You could have trimmed this down. I'm with you. Also, at this point, Amy has so much makeup on and her look is so different that I genuinely thought they might have brought in a different actress for some stunts or something.
Yeah, her hair is so different, but she's got the shark mouth that sort of everyone knows of the visual of this movie.
So Peter gets the coffin open, he stakes him, but he misses the heart, and so...
They have to start breaking windows.
Right, yeah, that part I really love. He starts smashing the windows, and it's kind of like a force field, almost that kind of vibe for when you were a kid. And so Peter Vincent is like in light, and therefore Jerry can't get to him.
Yeah. So they smash all the windows, and he looks excellent the way he dies. But
yeah, Peter Vincent like finally gets to the coffin as he's fleeing to it. He blocks it so he can't get in, and then he's like trapped in the light and gets burnt.
Melts, gets all gooey.
So Charlie tackles Amy to save her from walking into the light as she starts melting, or that Jerry Dandridge starts melting. And then Amy's okay. And then we cut to Charlie and Amy getting busy while watching Fright Night. And next door, there's glowing red eyes, and we hear Evil Ed again.
To be continued, except he turned it down to be in 856 Evil, or whatever that movie is.
976 Evil.
Thank you.
Which probably not the right call.
No, probably not. Although I feel like either way, it was sort of a middling thing.
Yeah. Better on, well, I guess not. You want to be in more franchises. I was gonna say better for the late in life con circuit, but you want to be on, as many things as you can, I think.
Yeah.
So that's the end, obviously. Final thoughts?
I like it. I just think it's a little too long, but
okay.
And I think because it is sort of, it's like you said, it's not necessarily that it's paced weirdly. It's more that like the placement of beats doesn't line up exactly where your brain goes, so it feels longer in spots.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's sort of a 4-act structure for this movie, which is weird. But I do think this is really good. As I said, I highly recommend both this and the remake.
This one's on Amazon Prime Video currently,
and the remake is also streaming somewhere fairly accessible. Because
I think you're right.
By the time this comes out, it'll probably be a different service, but I'm sure you could find it somewhere out there. But I highly recommend both these. They're both really, really enjoyable. This obviously has the 80s flavor, but apparently it's on Showtime. The remake is apparently on Showtime.
Okay.
So highly recommend both these. Good use of your time. This one has a nice 80s charm to it, and the other one obviously more modern, but one of the best horror remakes, and follows the rule that we have said many times is don't remake the great ones. This movie is fun, but it is not by any means a masterpiece. It's a perfect candidate, I think, for a remake. Yeah. You jazz it up a little. So yeah, highly recommend both. And, thank you for listening to the show. If you haven't yet, please take the time to go write us a review. That's free. And if you want more episodes of this show, that's right, bonus content is available at Dissecting the 80s Patreon page. That's patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. At the $5 tier, you get 4 bonus episodes a year, maybe soon to be 1 a month if we get enough people on board that train.
Yeah.
And already now, if you sign up right now, you get like 6 or 8 bonus episodes right off the top of no, it's more than that. Gosh, it's probably close to 10, 12 bonus episodes. There's a lot of content there. It's, we've been doing the Patreon for 2 years now. We got a commentary track. There's all sorts of great stuff. So check that out if you don't mind. Get yourself a Christmas present or a holiday treat at patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Dissectingthe80s.com is the website, and we're also at Dissect the 80s on Twitter and on Facebook. If you'd like to get a hold of us, we'd love to hear from you. We will be back in 2 weeks to continue No Vampire with a wonderful movie from Catherine Bigelow, Near Dark. Very excited to watch that again and to watch it with to talk about it with you, who has not seen it.
Nope.
Thank you again for listening. I have been Tripp Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Ow.